Some places tell you what they are the moment the trees open. We are walking out to a rim of rock about 150 feet above the Mississippi River in Dakota County, Minnesota, on a warm August afternoon. Below us, the river spreads into a wide, shallow lake, and barges move through it at the pace of a slow thought. Behind us are oaks and old farm fields. This edge has been a place to stand and look for thousands of years. This is Schaar's Bluff, a 395-acre section of Spring Lake Park Reserve, a Dakota County park of roughly 1,100 acres just upstream of the city of Hastings. We are about 25 miles downriver from St. Paul, on the south side of the Mississippi, near where the river bends east toward Wisconsin. The water widening out below us is called Spring Lake. It is not really a lake at all, and that is the first surprise this place has for us. From the rim, the valley is enormous. It is wide, flat-floored, braided with backwaters and islands, and the far bluffs stand a long way off across the haze. The main navigation channel threads through the middle, marked by buoys, and a towboat pushes a string of barges against a current you cannot see from up here. It is worth asking early, a question that will run through this entire walk. What cut a valley this big, and where did all that rock go? Start with the stone. The bluff we are standing on is made of rock laid down when this part of the continent sat near the equator under a shallow tropical sea. That sea came and went for millions of years in the Cambrian and Ordovician periods, and each time it flooded and it left sand, lime mud, and the shells of small marine animals. Those sediments hardened into sandstone and into dolostone, a rock closely related to limestone. Minnesota was once a sea floor. The cliffs that hold this bluff up belong to what geologists call the Prairie du Chien group, an Ordovician package of dolostone and sandy dolostone that includes the Wanoda dolomite and the Shakopee Formation. It is hard, it is stubborn, and it is the reason there is a bluff here at all. Softer rock erodes back and slumps into slopes. The Prairie du Chien holds a vertical face. Everywhere the river has cut down through this country, that gray ledge is what stands up and says no. Think of the bluff as a layer cake. Low down, near river level around Hastings, geologists find the Jordan Sandstone, a pale, crumbly Cambrian rock. Above it sits the Prairie du Chien dolostone that forms our cliffs. Above that, on higher ground upstream, lies the St. Peter Sandstone, a nearly pure white quartz sand that is famous in the Twin Cities Gorge. The river has sliced through this stack like a knife through a cake, and we get to walk along the cut. On top of that rock, the soil is thin and it drains fast, which is why the trees here are mostly oaks. Bur oak and red oak with their deep roots and thick corky bark, holding a bluff top that dries out hard in July. In places the canopy opens and the grass comes through, and you get the ghost of an older landscape, an oak savanna, scattered big trees over prairie. Hold that image. We will come back to it at the end. Now the recent past, geologically speaking. Over the last 2.5 million years, sheets of ice repeatedly buried the northern part of the continent. Lobes of glacier ground down out of Canada, advanced, stalled, and melted back, and they left this region covered until gravel and sand. Minnesota's shape, its 10,000 lakes, its buried valleys, all of it comes from that ice. But the ice itself is not what carved the enormous trench below us. Its meltwater did that in a hurry. Look at the valley again with that in mind. The Mississippi here is a working river, but it is not a river that could excavate a canyon miles wide with 200-foot walls. Geologists have a phrase for a valley that looks oversized for the stream inside it. They call it underfoot. The river we are watching is a modest tenant living in a house built by something far larger, something that came through very fast and did not stay long. That something has a name. Roughly 13,000 years ago, as the ice sheets melted back, an immense meltwater lake called Glacial Lake Agassiz pooled across what is now northwestern Minnesota, North Dakota, and Manitoba. When it found an outlet to the south, it drained through a torrent that geologists call Glacial River Warren, down the trench that is now the Minnesota River Valley, past the site of the Twin Cities, and on down this way. River Warren carved the valley. It cut the bluffs. It made the room we are standing in. Watch the ground as the trail rolls. The valley below has flat benches and terraces stepping down toward the water, old floors left as the flood cut deeper and then slackened. Downstream, the same event helped set up the wide basin that holds Lake Pepin. Upstream in Minneapolis, the retreat of the waterfall that River Warren created eventually became St. Anthony Falls. The whole geography of this river, its gorge, its lakes, its bluffs, is the receipt for one enormous drainage event. When the meltwater quieted, the valley filled with life. Spruce gave way to pine, then to oak and prairie as the climate warmed. Fish came into the backwaters, mussels into the shallows, deer and elk into the openings. And people came and stayed. The interpretive trail here at Schaar's Bluff is called the 8,000-year walk, and that number is not a flourish. Human presence in this stretch of river valley is measured in millennia, continuously, right up to the present day. It is not hard to see why. A high, dry bluff with a commanding view. Below it, a marshy spring-fed floodplain thick with fish, waterfowl, mussels, and edible plants. Good stone nearby, good water, an easy river highway running north and south. If you were choosing where to live in this landscape with your own hands and your own knowledge, you would very likely choose exactly here. And people did, for a very long time in numbers we are still learning to appreciate. There are burial mounds in this park. The two known mounds in Spring Lake Park Reserve are called the Bremer Mounds, and they are thought to be somewhere between roughly 1,300 and 1,700 years old. One of them is about 200 feet long. They are graves. Dakota County works with the Office of the State Archaeologist and with tribal nations to keep them undisturbed, and the right way to pass a place like this is quietly, on the trail, and without going looking. So we walk on. That is really all this segment is. Not every part of a landscape is ours to photograph or to stand on. What we can say honestly is that the ground under this park holds the ancestors of living people, that those people are still here, and that the park exists in part to protect that. A survey carried out with the Upper Sioux community in 2020 identified more culturally significant places in this park than either the county or the tribal officials had expected. Much of what is documented here was recovered under duress. Between 1953 and 1958, the Science Museum of Minnesota carried out an urgent program of salvage archaeology around Spring Lake because rising water and erosion were destroying the sites. Excavations at places like the Sorg site on the South Shore and at nearby sites on Gray Cloud Island turned up pottery, hearths, and tools spanning the woodland periods into 100 times, showing occupation across something like 1,000 years and more. That material tells a real story. The people living along this water were not passing through. They made distinctive pottery, some of it so characteristic that archaeologists named a type for the Sorg site itself. They hunted, fished, gathered, and later farmed. They traded, because objects from far away turn up in these deposits. This was a settled, connected, sophisticated river society, and the bluff we are walking today was part of its everyday geography. This is Dakota homeland. In the Dakota language, this region is Mni Soda Makos, often translated as the land where the waters reflect the clouds. The Mississippi carries Dakota names too, including Wakpa, the River of the Falls, and Wakpatonka, the Great River. Those names are not decorations on a map. They describe a river that was a road, a larder, a boundary, and a sacred presence. And for the Dakota, it still is all of those things. It matters to say this in the present tense. The Dakota are not a chapter that closed. Their descendants live in this state today in communities including Prairie Island, just downriver near Red Wing, Shakopee Mdewakanton, Lower Sioux and Upper Sioux, and in Dakota Nations in South Dakota, Nebraska, and Canada. Dakota County's own name is a borrowed one. When we walk here, we are guests on a landscape whose first people never left it, and who are still consulted about how it is cared for. In the 1700s and 1800s, Mdewakanton Dakota villages sat along this stretch of the Mississippi. The best documented is Kaposia, upstream from here in what is now the South St. Paul area, a seasonal village led by a succession of leaders known as Little Crow. Kaposia was known for canoe making and for hundreds of residents in the warm months. French and then American traders came up this same water, and the river became a seam where two worlds pressed against each other. Stand here long enough and the strategic logic gets obvious. From a bluff like this, you can see a long way up and down the channel. You can see weather coming. You can see who is on the water. Every group that ever lived in this valley would have known this rim and used it and probably argued about it. A view is not just scenery. For most of human history, a view was information, and information was survival. Then the ground moved without an earthquake. On the 5th of August, 1851, at Mendota, the Mdua Canton and Wapikute, Dakota, signed a treaty with the United States. Together with the Treaty of Traverse des Sioux signed weeks earlier, it transferred roughly 24 million acres, most of southern Minnesota, and pushed the Dakota onto a narrow reservation strip along the Minnesota River. The land under our boots changed hands in that document. 11 years later came the United States-Dakota War and exile. It is worth carrying that for a minute rather than moving briskly on. The park we are enjoying, the trail, the bench at the overlook, all of it sits on land that was seeded under enormous pressure, with promised payments that arrived late or not at all. That is not an accusation aimed at anyone walking here today. It is simply the true provenance of the ground, and a place that tells 8,000 years of its own story ought to be able to tell that part too. What followed came fast. Steamboats were already working this river, and within a couple of years of the treaties, the townsite of Hastings was platted in 1853 and 54 at the mouth of the Vermilion River just downstream. It took its name from the middle name of Henry Hastings Sibley, drawn out of a hat by the town proprietors. Wheat poured in from the new farms. Between 1857 and 1866, Hastings was the most important grain market in Minnesota. Some of the open ground we are crossing was farmed. You can read it if you look, in the straightness of certain edges, in the way a hedgerow of trees runs where nothing natural would run, in the smooth, graded feel of a slope that ought to be rougher. This bluff top spent about a century as cropland and pasture before it was a park. That is a short chapter in an 8,000-year story, but it left the deepest marks on the surface. We are in Ninninger Township, and the township is named for a town that barely happened. In 1856, Ignatius Donnelly and John Ninninger platted a city on this shore, thousands of lots, advertised across the country as the coming metropolis of the upper Mississippi. Houses went up by the hundred. A population of several hundred, by some accounts approaching 1,000, arrived. It was incorporated in 1858. And then the panic of 1857 arrived, and the railroad did not. Ninninger emptied out almost as fast as it filled. The lots went back to grass. Ignatius Donnelly stayed on, more or less alone in his own dream, and went on to become a congressman, a lieutenant governor, a firebrand populist, and the author of strange and best-selling books about Atlantis. He lived in his Ninninger house until his death on the 1st of January, 1901. The house itself was taken down in 1949. The town is now farmland and floodplain. Hastings, 3 miles downstream, made the choice Ninninger could not. It had the falls of the Vermilion River, and falls meant power. Flour mills went up, then more mills, then the rail and steamboat connections to move the flour out. That is the whole formula for a 19th century river town in this country. Water power, a landing, a railroad, and wheat. Ninninger had the landing and the ambition, and nothing else, and ambition alone does not turn a millstone. Which brings us back to the barges. That tow you can see below is moving grain and sand and fertilizer on a channel that is guaranteed 9 feet deep all the way to St. Louis. That guarantee is not natural. The Mississippi here was once a braided, shallow, shifting thing, too unreliable for heavy commerce. The federal government decided to fix that, and the way they fixed it is the single largest reason the view from this bluff looks the way it does. Construction of Lock and Dam No. 2 began at Hastings in 1927, and the structure opened on the 30th of November 1930. It was part of the 9-foot channel project that stepped the whole upper Mississippi into a staircase of pools. When the gates closed, the water behind the dam rose, and the marshy spring-fed bottomland upstream drowned. That flooded basin is the sheet of water below us. Spring Lake, roughly 1,500 acres of it, is essentially a reservoir. So the lake we are admiring is an engineered lake, and it did not come free. The rising water and the wave-cut erosion that followed began eating the very shoreline where people had lived for thousands of years. That is precisely why the Science Museum was down there in the 1950s, digging in a hurry. The same act that made this beautiful view was quietly destroying the archaeological record of the people who had the view first. The bluff carries a family name. The Schaars farmed this ground from the late 1890s until the early 1970s, when they sold it to Dakota County to become part of Spring Lake Park Reserve. That is the quiet transaction that put us here today. In 2008, the county opened the Schaars Bluff Gathering Center on the rim, a small building notable for being the county's first designed to make as much energy as it uses. Now the land is being repaired. Friends of the Mississippi River has worked in this park since 2005, beginning in a mature oak forest called Church's Woods that the state ranks as a site of outstanding biodiversity significance. On old farm ground nearby, they cleared invasive brush and seeded native prairie in phases, 13 grasses and more than 50 wildflower species. The seed took. Botanists now count over 80 native plant species where there was mostly turf and buckthorn. Restore the plants and the animals follow. This valley is a main line of the Mississippi Flyway, and in migration these bluffs fill with birds. Scarlet tanagers and wood thrushes in the woods, dickcissels out in the restored grassland, and along the rim, bald eagles and turkey vultures riding the updraft where warm air lifts off the cliff face. If you stand still at the edge on a good day, an eagle will eventually cross below you, which is a strange and excellent way to see one. We turn back through the oaks in the long light of an August afternoon, cicadas going in the canopy, the grass already gone gold at the tips. It is an easy walk on gentle ground, which is part of the point. This is not a wilderness, and it never pretended to be. It is a rescued edge of a working river, 3 miles from a small city, carrying more history per step than most places 10 times as wild. So here is what this rim holds. A tropical sea turned to stone. A flood out of a vanished lake that carved a valley for a river that did not need one. 8,000 years of people and their graves and their descendants who are still here and still speaking. A boomtown that failed. A dam that drowned a marsh and made a lake. A farm that became a park and a prairie coming back through the old field. Thank you for watching. Follow for more trails of the world.